Hospital porters, pride and dignity, stop the New World Order. Welcome to Panmo TV. This video is about a subject which is very much in the news at the moment. It's probably the major news story. It's also a subject over which many people have asked me what I think, and have asked me, someone actually suggested that I do a video about this. Now, I am talking about the engagement between Prince Harry and his long-term girlfriend Meghan Markle. Now, I mean, I don't know how many of you remember the video I did about the royal wedding. That's when William and Kate got married in 2011. I have got a link in the description box to that, which you can watch, and you might find it amusing. I find it rather embarrassing because I was slightly the worse for drink during the filming of that particular video. I was a hospital porter in those days, after all, you know, so I hope you'll excuse me. But it was a sort of party thing, and so I thought, well, what the hell, you know. Now, during that particular video, during the TV coverage I was watching, there was a scene of some young women, one of the royal groupies, you know. They were holding up a banner which said, "Marry me, Harry, marry me." Because, of course, with the wedding of Prince William to Kate Middleton, Harry essentially became the world's most eligible bachelor in place of William, his brother, his older brother, who's now hitched, who's now married to Kate. So who was the lucky girl? Who was, I mean, this is the big question. I mean, the question was, who would be the lucky girl who would end up hooking this catch? And it turned out it was Meghan Markle. She's been dating Harry for a couple of years, and wow, it was very interesting because the palace put out an announcement saying the palace is very pleased to hear about the announcement that Prince Harry will be getting married to his girlfriend Meghan Markle. The Queen very much approves, which is very good. She is very much amused, and they stress that the royal family will be paying for the wedding, and that's an important little addition which I'll come on to in a minute. It's about the royal public image. Now, they did an interview on BBC. It's a 20-minute interview. You can watch it on YouTube. It's where she kind of like she and Harry are sitting on a settee. It all looks very genial, and they do this exclusive interview for the BBC, and they talk about how it all happened. And Meghan is sitting there smiling, wearing this little engagement ring on her finger, which is one that Harry designed. Actually, it's made. I doubt if they just popped down to Argos and got it. I mean, it's actually made from white gold, and has a Botswana diamond, an exclusive piece of jewellery in it. So it's very important. I'm sure to wear it the way that Kate was wearing Diana's ring. That was very interesting. And apparently, yeah, they were cooking dinner. They were cooking chicken casserole or something. And yes, these days the royals do cook their own food, like sometimes. And Harry dropped to one knee and popped the question. And in the non-hospital portering sense, you know, I've been over that before. It popped the question in the more traditional sense, which was, "Will you marry me?" And he didn't even finish the sentence before she said yes. Oh, isn't it lovely? Now, the palace has revealed that the royal wedding will take place. It's now I covered this on her Panmo Voice, and there's been a couple more details revealed since then. But still, the only what they've said is that this wedding looks like it's going to be a more low-key one than William and Kate's. It's not going to be at Westminster Abbey. It's going to be at the St George's Chapel in Windsor Castle. So it's a smaller, more modest event than William's. But I think it's still going to be public because it is a Prince of the Realm we're talking about here. It's not like when Prince Anne married her second husband. This is something a bit more prestigious in that sense. So it's in royal lineage terms, it's the same as when Prince Andrew married, what's her name, Fergie, and so that was like a big event, very similar to on the scale of Diana and Charles. So it's still going to be a public event. It's still going to be a big. It's still going to be there'll be TV coverage, no doubt about it. There's not going to be a special bank holiday though. The Prime Minister has confirmed that because a lot of people saying, well, there should be a special bank holiday for this so that people can watch it. She says no. But I imagine it'll be on a Saturday, and because most weddings are traditionally on a Saturday. When was William and Kate's? I can't remember. I know I was at Sue's place and I was drinking sherry, and I can't remember what day of the week it was. I was still on shift work in those days. So it's probably a weekday, actually. I should have looked that up, shouldn't I? But anyway, whatever it is, I mean, it may well be a Saturday. Now, this is where the problem comes in, because the palace has announced that it's going to be in May, but they haven't said what date in May. Now, this causes problems because I don't know how many of you have been following this situation, but Dreaming Saucers is in May. I haven't actually made a formal announcement on Panwo TV yet. I'm going to soon, but I have made a formal announcement on Panwo Voice, and that is that the Roswell 70 event, the one I did this year in July, was such a success. I'm doing another one at the same place next year. It's going to be sometime. I mean, I booked a date in May. This is the problem. I booked the 12th and 13th of May. It's at the same venue, and it's a 2-day conference. I've got some great speakers coming up. You know, Miles and Tony are coming back. There's a load of new ones. It's going to be very much like the first one, but it's going to be called Dreaming Saucers. Yet, I booked the 12th and 13th of May, and this is a problem because I'm hoping that they'll simply have it on one of the other bank holidays, because there are 2 bank holidays in May. There's a spring bank holiday, the May bank holiday, and these banks don't have an easy time in May. I'm hoping that they'll choose one of those weekends if it's going to be a weekend, because mine is on the weekend between the 2 bank holidays. Now, I hope that'll be the case, because the problem is, if the royal wedding happens to be on the 12th, Saturday the 12th, I'm going to have to move. I'll have to move Dreaming Saucers. It's a good job I haven't sold any tickets yet, because I can't. There's lots of things Dreaming Saucers can clash with. At the moment, it's clashing with Megalithomania. It's impossible to avoid completely clashing with anything. But I can't compete with the royal wedding. I'm going to have to shift the dates. So our fingers crossed and toes crossed and everything else you can crossed. The royal couple will choose a date which is not the 12th. I hope not. When I do change the date, I will consult with the speakers. I've got a full list of speakers. I will consult with them. I'll make sure I choose another day when all of them can manage it. I won't drop any speakers for that reason. Okay. Now, going on to another subject, and that is the actual bride herself, the bride-to-be, Meghan Markle. She spells her name Meghan with a H, M-E-G-H-A-N, which is unusual. But now, there's several things about her. She's divorced, first of all. Now, it's not unacceptable for a prince of the realm actually to marry a divorcee, as it was in the time of King Edward, which is why he abdicated. He wanted to marry Wallis Simpson, who was an American divorcee, and they wouldn't let him. He says, well, I'm not going to be king then. Now, since then, we've had Charles marrying Camilla. Camilla's divorced. Charles, of course, was divorced from Diana before somehow she had a terrible accident in a tunnel, and she was out of the way. Charles was always in love with Camilla. He was with her the night before the wedding to Diana, and Diana said so. It's not unacceptable that Meghan Markle was married before. She was married to a film producer. She was married for a couple of years. She's not got children, but she was definitely married to him. So it's not unusual in that respect, and it's not unacceptable. She doesn't make her an unacceptable bride. She's American, which is not British, although she is going to be. She's going to become a naturalised Briton in due course. She's also got plans to be baptised into the Anglican Church. She's currently from I think Methodist or Baptist. It's a Protestant nonconformist religious background. So she's an unusual consort in that sense. She's going to retain her American passport, incidentally. I mean, I don't know if that's what she tends to do now, but she is going to become a naturalised Briton. So it shouldn't be hard. I mean, if the waiter down at Pizza Hut can do that, I don't see why a princess can't. Now, but I mean, the most obvious unusualness about her, the most obvious unusual feature about Meghan Markle is she is very obviously of mixed race. And that has caused quite a stir. Now, this is where I think my views do diverge very much from the other people who've been commenting on this, because it even includes Red Ice Radio, who've made a video about this and saying that it's all political. They just want to like multi-racialise the royal family. No, I don't think that's actually what happens, because and this also I'll say more in a minute about what Peter Tatchell has been saying, but you've got to realise the royal family look white. They present what appears to be white European features. However, racially, they are actually not at all. They are not. In racial terms, they are, in a sense, a breed apart. They are a completely separate racial group from all natural races on Earth. And I'm not talking about the reptilian thing here. I'm talking about the human DNA. So simply, even if you don't believe in the reptilian side of things, okay, it's still a human issue here in terms of their human DNA. They're not part of the main racial groups, at least Caucasoid, Negroid, Oriental, Australoid, whatever. You know, they're not part of that. I mean, almost all people in the world fit into one of those four main groups. So people say, oh, well, the people who've been claiming the royal family are racist because they only ever accept white Europeans, are wrong, because the royal families are not white Europeans. They look it, but they're not. Okay, in terms of that's the important point to realise. They are part of a separate racial group that has been interbreeding amongst themselves almost exclusively for several thousand years. This is very interesting, and Burke's Peerage can confirm this. You don't have to go to davidicke.com to get the family trees. You can get it from official sources, which keep a track of all aristocratic pedigree. Now, Meghan Markle, her maternal ancestry is what in America is called today African American, which is the current politically correct term for a Negroid black. Now, no doubt in a few years' time there'll be another politically correct term, and therefore it'll be racist to say the term African American. I mean, they keep changing these things all the time. I mean, currently you can't say Negro. I mean, even though Martin Luther King called his own people Negroes, you can't say that now. You have to say African American. But I mean, I just say black. I mean, she's a Negroid black, and that's why and her mother is a black woman, and that's the word I'm going to use. Okay. So. Yes, this is the thing. And I think she may have been chosen partly for this reason, for that very reason. The fact is she's mixed race, and she's part black Negroid, part white, of white European ancestry, Dutch Irish ancestry. So, and this comes to the point which I was making before, is that the royal family are now very aware of their public image, to the point where they're willing to drop certain traditional standards in order to make themselves more appealing to the public. And this is something actually Red Ice said, and they said this means the monarchy is doomed because they're doing this. I don't think the monarchy is doomed, but I think they are aware that the plan is for the monarchy to remain. That is the plan for the New World Order, and they're aware in order to do this they have to, in a sense, they have to appease the public to a certain point. They have to pacify us by doing things which stop us complaining about them, because there is a movement. There is. I mean, this is the point. The political left is the main driving force in government, and that is completely and utterly planned. So the monarchy, in a sense, because the monarchy is also a part of this plan, they have to gel. They have to have each other's objections silenced, so that they become a united front to create this globalist superstate. This is why Meghan Markle was chosen. Yes, I did use the word chosen, and I'll come to that in a minute. Chosen not by Harry, I should point out. I'll say more about that in a minute. Because this is where I come back to Peter Tatchell. Now, Peter Tatchell is someone I I did respect, actually. I mean, I think David Icke said it very clearly. David Icke said on the other day on the Richie Allen, not on the Richie Allen show. He said it on The Unexplained with Howard Hughes. He said Peter Tatchell was fighting for gay rights when it was more than just a way of getting more Christmas cards, and that's actually very true. Peter Tatchell was an activist for homosexual liberation at a time when it wasn't trendy, and a lot of the benefits that current homosexual people actually enjoy is because people like him have fought for it. And I don't want to sound like some kind of backward reactionary, because I do understand that, and I do actually support the changes in society that have made life easier to be gay. I don't care about people being gay. It's, you know, another person, another man or another woman's private life is something of which I have no opinions. It's nothing to do with me. And if someone's being harmed because of their private life, I'm against it. So then the thing is, Peter Tatchell was a colleague of mine on the People's Voice, and he did some speeches where he said some, I think, quite disturbing things regarding underage sex, and I won't go into any details about that, but it did make me question him, actually, and maybe feel less respect for him. But funny thing is, Peter Tatchell is a member of a group called Republic for UK, which wants to abolish the monarchy and turn the United Kingdom into a republic, hence its name, which means we'd have an elected head of state, like many other countries do, France, Germany, United States, etc. We would have an elected head of state, and we'd abolish the monarchy. This is something that many other countries have done. Australia, Ireland, Canada hasn't done it yet. Australia hasn't done it yet, but Australia, there's a big movement to abolish the monarchy. Ireland abolished the monarchy in 1947 and became a republic. It already was a free state. It became a free state in 1921. But I suppose from the Australian, Canadian, Irish point of view, the Queen represents a foreign ruler, whereas from the British point of view, she's the Queen of England. But of course, she's as much a foreign ruler for we Brits as she is for any of the former imperial colonies and today's Commonwealth countries. But Peter Tatchell is a member of this group called Republic for UK, and he actually organised a protest at the Diamond Jubilee, and I did a video about that as well, about the Diamond Jubilee, in which I was slightly less drunk, I must say. But yeah, the Windsors are now very, very aware of the way the public perceives them, and they have been listening to some of the criticism that they've faced before. But first of all, I want to explore more this situation about this relationship between the aristocracy, the monarchy, and the political left. And if you want to know what the political left are thinking, well, the good news is there's one source you can always go to, and you can absolutely guaranteed, to put every single left-wing idea in completely comprehensive and repetitive form, and that is the good old Guardian. Right, now this is a perfect example of what I'm talking about here. This is from The Guardian, yes. I mean, you know very well, all you have to do is go to The Guardian and you will have a prime example of this whole way in which what's happening now with the royal family has disarmed the left, and has they've definitely done this in order to make themselves look more left-wing friendly. The royals have done it. This is an article by someone called Amanda Holpunch, or her name spelled, her surname Holpuch. I don't know how to pronounce that. She's in New York. Black American women celebrate falling barriers as Meghan Markle joins the royals. I mean, these headlines could almost write themselves, couldn't they? I mean, it's just so, The Guardian is just so template. It just keeps repeating these templates. Prince Harry's engagement to the actor. Hang on a minute. Sorry, Amanda Holpunch is from New York, so maybe I should give her a Richard Dolan voice. Prince Harry's engagement to the actor from a country where women of colour have gone mute for centuries offers hope. There are no words for this joy. No. I'll stick to my normal Guardian voice because it doesn't suit her really. The first thing strikes you about this, they're using the American spelling. I assume this is a British publication. But they say women of colour. They say colour
C-O-L-O-R. The Americans insist on spelling things like that. A country where women of colour have gone mute for centuries. Well, I don't know about... Not now. And these days, I mean, you can't say that women of colour... I say black women. Okay, I'm not going to use this political correct nonsense. I say black women in America are not mute. Oprah Winfrey is not mute. Janet Jackson is not mute. So it offers hope. Well, does it? Well, we'll see about that. And then there's this little quote from this lady's actually quoting somebody else. There are no words for this joy. Right, well, that's something anyway, because normally when you give concessions to the left, they demand more. I actually covered this. I don't know how many of you watch my VidMe videos, but I covered this on VidMe. I might upload this video to VidMe as well. Like, for instance, when they had the female Doctor Who, Anita Sarkeesian, an American commentator, she immediately wrote, the BBC is still racist because the Doctor is still white. So you can't actually... You don't ever give something to the left and they'll say, oh, thank you very much, and leave it at that. They always want more. They always demand more. They always say, I mean, their catchphrase is, we have achieved so much, but there's an awful lot still to be done. So you can't appease them. Don't give in to them. Don't give them things they want, because they just ask for more. But this is different. There are no words for this joy. This sounds like somebody... This Amanda Holepunch is actually quoting somebody who seems to be satisfied. And that is... I don't know whether to feel respect for that or to feel worried that this person has been so utterly kowtowed by this move by the royal family. And here we go. The article continues. I'll do the normal Guardian voice. Finding the Americans most excited about the British royal family can be a competitive business, but Prince Harry's engagement this week to the American actor Meghan Markle. Do you notice how they say actor, right? The word actress doesn't exist anymore in any publication. It has gone down the memory hole. No one decided to eliminate the word actress. It is just simply it's just a decision made by the publishers of the media to actually remove that word from the English language. And I've written it in places and people have corrected me. They say you shouldn't use the word actress. And that is sinister. That is very, very sinister. But I'm going off topic here. Anyway, we carry on. Actor Meghan Markle, whose mother is black and father is white, struck a chord with a part of the population rarely reflected in European monarchies. Black American women. I'm sounding like Diane Abbott now. Anyway, this goes on to talk about the various... the delight on Twitter from various people, and people calling her a black American princess. And made a big fuss about her mother. Her mother has dreadlocks in her hair and things like that. Well, this sounds a bit like the fuss that was made of Kate Middleton, when they found out that her father has tattoos on his arms. So, in a sense, it's not just the racial issue. It's you see Meghan being portrayed as a commoner. So this is another royal marrying a commoner thing, and that is an illusion. And I'll come into that in a minute. But anyway. This is someone quoting Tyler Young, who edits a tech newsletter covering innovators of colour. She said, I assume it's a she, for centuries our stories, particular for African American women, have gone mute, silenced by systems of oppression and hate. This is she told this particular journalist that the royal engagement instead promotes a positive story about women of colour who was accomplished well before she met the prince. In my eyes I see a woman, one who grew up in a country that often overlooks women of colour. And she goes, we deserve love and new beginnings. When I see Meghan, I see a light of love. Oh, well, that's original, isn't it? And she goes on. Markle, whose skin is darker than dozens of other women who have found themselves engaged to an heir to the throne, Harry's actually fifth in line to the throne, joins the family at a time when racial divisions in her home country have been spotlighted by Donald Trump. Critics say that the president has demolished the standards for what a modern American leader is allowed to say publicly about women and racial and religious minorities, which might be why Americans are so eager to celebrate a couple that suggests power and status does not have to corrupt dignity. And then this is, well, I mean, you could say, as far as Trump goes, I mean, well, I've done a video called the counter-Trumpening, which means I don't think Trump is going to be, he's not the anti-establishment figure that I thought he was. He's actually been, I think, he's been managed by the globalist system now. But I mean, what the critics say could be interpreted as what Trump is doing is he's resisting cultural Marxism. So what he's saying, I mean, what people have to say publicly about women and racial and religious minorities. Well, I mean, you see, you could argue, and I do, that what Trump is saying about is not rude, it's not aggressive, it's not insulting. It is actually simply resisting the hypersensitive political correctness that surrounds the use of language in these sort of situations. And that's a good thing. Anyway, there's a British writer called Samara Linton who tweeted, Prince Harry's future mother-in-law is a black woman with dreadlocks. There are no words for this kind of joy. Alright, so this is the person that Mrs. Holepunch, or Ms. Holepunch is actually quoting. Well, that's... okay, well that's fine, but I mean, I think there's something strange going on here, and I think these people, I mean, whether you agree with them or not in terms of their politics and their ethics, I think they're being deluded, I think they're being misled, and I'll explain why. But there's this other Guardian article I want to talk about as well. This is called The Royals and Race from Victoria and Abdul to Harry and Meghan Markle, and this is by someone called Kate Williams. And again, our society is still obsessed with purity and is shocked that a royal could marry a person of colour. At least they've spelt it right this time. And now it talks about the film Victoria and Abdul, which I've not seen, but I do like the look of it. I wanted to go and see that actually. I don't think it's in the cinema anymore, but it did look good. And it's about Queen Victoria and her friendship with an Indian servant. It just goes on to talk about it's sort of more of these sort of analysis articles about various racial issues together with connected to the royal family. But again, I mean, we're looking, and it mentions also Diana and Dodi. I mean, some people claimed that the reason Diana was assassinated, and she was because she was going to be the Queen Mother married to an Arab Muslim. Now, that may actually be one of the reasons. But it's not, as I said, it's not, the racial issues connected to the royal family are not as simple as many people think they are. There is another side to this, and it's to do with the fact, well, basically the royal family are not white. That's the point. That's what I was talking about.
So there you are, and of course, Peter Tatchell, the aforementioned, has said quite clearly that one of his objections to the royal family is that they were racist because they only ever brought white people in, and they were completely and utterly white. They were all white Europeans, and they wanted to keep themselves genetically that way. But of course, he's wrong there. They don't want to keep themselves genetically white Europeans because the royal family are not white Europeans. They just look it. They're not. As I said, they come from a racial group which is completely separate from all other human beings. And the reason for this, there could be many. I mean, it's partly snobbishness, but it's also because through the centuries, the Illuminati occupied states of the world have always had this idea that there is a group of people, the group of people who rule us are separate from, racially and biologically, from the common people, and they are superior. So the royal family aren't white supremacists, they're Anunnaki supremacists. For them, we white people like me, are as much what do I use? Some derogatory racial term, as the black people and the Asians and the Orientals and people like that. We're all below them. We're all beneath them. We're natural biological humans, and we're beneath them. So that's the thing. Bringing Meghan Markle in is a sign. Now this is where we got to get. Is there's several issues here. Firstly, it's about, I say, the royals' perception of themselves in the public eye. They brought her in because they want to silence these left-wing critics, and as you see, they have. These journalists that I've been describing and the things they've been writing makes it clear that the royal family has stuffed their nose bags full, and they're going to be quiet for a very, very long time now, which is why they brought Meghan Markle in. I used the word chosen. I said Meghan Markle was chosen. She wasn't chosen by Harry, she was chosen for him. She was chosen for him by whoever it is within the royal family, the royal lineage management system, which chooses the heirs, the various heirs and the various newcomers, the people who marry into the family. The royals do not marry who they want, they marry who they're told to marry. And I mean, this is not a secret. It's been well known throughout royal culture for many, throughout their history of the royal families, of all royal families, that they have arranged marriages. They marry who they're told to for political reasons and for dynastic reasons, for reasons of power. Henry VIII, of course, he married several people. He married his principal motive for marrying. He had 6 wives, of course, and his principal motivation for marrying these women was political. He wanted to have children with certain other bloodlines within the Illuminati network to give him power and to give his family power, to keep the Tudors on the throne. Diana, as I've already explained, Diana and Charles's wedding was a sham. Diana was selected to marry into the Windsor family, probably even before she was born. It's quite likely that her father was told, your daughter, your first, second, or whatever daughter will marry a prince of the realm. These things are arranged even before birth. Now, this is not to say, I'm not saying for certain that this means that Meghan and Harry are not in love, sincerely in love with each other. What I'm saying is, if they happen to be, then it's a lucky bonus. It is. And I pity both these people, both of them, and I'll explain why. Now, Meghan's pedigree. Now, this is where we get back to Kate Middleton. This prince marrying a commoner thing was what was said about Kate Middleton, because they had no reason for saying this other than her things like her father had tattoos on his arm, so therefore he was a common man, he was a working class guy. He was actually an airline pilot. The thing about it is, though, I mean, it may appear that way because she comes from a background, she didn't come from an aristocratic background, she wasn't born with a silver spoon in her mouth, but her family background is. There are people alive today in middle class or working class, but even working class lives, who do have family connections to aristocracy. So they have Illuminati blood in them. Meghan, I mean, Kate is not pure Illuminati bloodline. Neither was Diana. And the thing about it is, because of inbreeding. I mean, you know all about inbreeding. I mean, the truth of the matter is, this obsessive inbreeding of the Habsburg Illuminati bloodline, especially, not so much perhaps the others, includes several genetic problems that have happened, and one of those is haemophilia, which one of Queen Victoria's sons had, which little Prince Alexei had, of the last Tsar's heir to the throne, who was shot. He died at the age of 13. He was shot dead by the Bolsheviks after the Russian Revolution. I did a radio show about that a couple of weeks ago. But I mean, he wouldn't have lived past his mid-20s anyway if he'd survived. Now, all the English monarchs of the last few centuries have been from the Habsburg Illuminati bloodline. They have to bring in other genetic stock at certain times simply to prevent inbreeding leading to catastrophic genetic damage. This is what Diana was, this is what Kate was, and this is what Meghan is. However, Meghan actually is, from what I've seen so far, she's actually more royal than Kate. She has a closer connection to royal bloodlines than Kate does. Now, Harry is descended from his grandmother the Queen and his great-grandmother the Queen Mother, from the Bowes-Lyon family. The Bowes-Lyon family is part of the Stuart bloodline, which is separate from the Habsburg bloodline, of which is actually part of the Bowes-Lyon family. Is actually the Lords of Glamis Castle. That is the Earls of Strathmore and Kinhorn. The Earls of Strathmore and Kinhorn are the people who are part of this particular stream of the Stuart bloodline. A good book to read. I read Bloodlines of the Illuminati by Fritz Springmeier. It's a very, very good book to read. I've got a copy here. I'll show you. I'll just get it off my shelf and I'll show it to you. Yeah. Do check that out. And all the information is from here, but it's all checkable through Burke's Peerage. You can actually look this up through mainstream sources to check it. So now what happened was Queen Elizabeth, the Queen Mother, is the daughter of the 17th Earl of Strathmore and Kinhorn, and he married a prince of the realm because of, through a long story. It's a long story behind this, but it's basically he did the Windsors a favour. So the Habsburgs, the Windsor branch of the Habsburg bloodline, he did them a favour, a very big favour. So the deal was that his eldest daughter, that is Elizabeth Bowes-Lyon, would, when this will happen when she was just a little baby, would marry into the Habsburg Prince of the Realm on the throne of England. She became Queen Elizabeth, the Queen Mother. Now Meghan Markle is a direct descendant as well. No, she's not a direct descendant. She's a third cousin of essentially the current Earl of Strathmore. So she is related to the Bowes-Lyon family. Harry, of course, is a direct descendant of the Bowes-Lyon family through his maternal great grandmother. Sorry, through his paternal great grandmother. So they're related. Now, you could say, well, yeah, that's her father's bloodline. Now, her mother's bloodline, as I've just said, her mother is a black woman, and now her maternal bloodline is harder to trace. Through the official sources, it only goes back to her great-great-great-grandfather, who was sadly a slave. It's a sad fact that most black Americans are descended from slaves. And when you become a slave, sadly, all your past is erased. You're usually taken from your home country, you're taken to the other side of the world, and you're forced to work in a plantation. No one cares where you came from. And so you only have your memories of your past. There's no records. Her great-great-great-grandfather was a slave on a plantation in Georgia, USA, until he was actually emancipated eventually in 1865 after the Civil War. But that is where the official story of Meghan Markle's maternal ancestry ends. However, this is an important point. It's possible that the royal genealogists, the management people of royal pedigree that I talked about before, who selected her, know more about her maternal bloodline than the official ones do. They may have tested her DNA, they may have records in Africa which may give more insight than you can get through the official sources. This is speculated now. This is complete speculation. But I would not be surprised if Meghan Markle's comes down through her mother from African royalty, the so-called Black Illuminati, or the African Illuminati that Credo Mutwa talks about. This would be, for example, the Mashona Empire. And it's well known that Robert Mugabe is a descendant of the Mashona kings. And his family made their fortune in the slave trade. It's a common misconception which is spread for political reasons, psychological warfare reasons in the modern world, is that slavery is something that's done exclusively by evil white heterosexual men twirling their moustaches and wearing pith helmets and carrying whips around with them. No, it's not. If you lived in Africa in the 18th and 19th century, you were as likely to be enslaved by one of your fellow colonials as you were some nasty, horrible white devil coming from abroad, you know, cackling demonically as he tortures his poor, sweet black servants. No. It's slavery. It's a sad fact, but slavery was something universal almost in human society until several centuries ago, which is one of the things that gives me hope. It was actually white Christians who actually put a stop to it, but we don't talk about that much because it's not politically expedient. So yeah, that's a sad fact of history. It's something I wish had not happened, but it did. But it's not all the fault of white heterosexual men, okay? So Robert Mugabe was a part of that. Robert Mugabe made his fortune. His family made their fortune that way, and he was a descendant from the Mashona Empire. Thing is, so was Nelson Mandela. Nelson Mandela was a prince of the Thembu tribe, of the Xhosa nation, Xhosa, whatever his nation, of South Africa. And it turns out that Barack Obama's bloodline on his father's side, which comes from Kenya, it sounds like he also has a royal pedigree. So I suspect that Meghan Markle is through and through Illuminati on both her sides, her mother's and her father's, and so that's I think is quite likely to happen. I mean, she'll also have been screened for hereditary diseases. That's another thing. I mean, she looks healthy. She's very conventionally attractive. She looks healthy. You know, it's very ironic, you know, but it's a possibility. I mean, this is well known. It's often come to pass that there is a possibility that Harry himself may come from what in the aristocracy is known as bend sinister, and this goes back to Diana and her, because she had a loveless marriage to Charles. She formed relationships with other men. One of those was a man called James Hewitt. In 1983, the year Harry was conceived, he was Diana's riding instructor, and you can put that in quotes and you can interpret it any way you like, but basically they had a relationship. Diana had a relationship with several men. She was in love with a man called Barry Manicky, who was a police bodyguard of hers, who was killed in a motorcycle accident which was probably about as genuine as her car accident. But it means this possibility that Harry is not Charles's son, he's Diana's son. Now, the way the aristocracy usually treat their bend to sinister elements is they arrange accidents for them. When Harry went off to Afghanistan, I was actually very worried for his safety, because I thought it's a perfect opportunity to get rid of him. They could get him killed and blame the Taliban. He was in danger in Afghanistan, but not from the enemy, but from his own side, or from assassins working with his own side. The fact that he came home safely, I mean, there was some talk about him not going to Afghanistan. I made a joke on a panel at the time. I said those photographs of him playing in the sand were taken on Prestatyn Beach, because Prestatyn Beach was actually sealed off for a while. But I mean, I met someone actually who was actually a soldier who'd been in Afghanistan, and he said, no, Harry was there, I met him, etc. And I'm inclined to believe this person. But either way, he came home safely. I was relieved. This could indicate that he is actually Charles's son, or it could indicate that the royals have simply found a use for him, being just Diana's child. It could be that he's not intended to reproduce. It could be that he and Meghan will have no children, or maybe just have one child, or something like that. However, what's ironic here is if Harry is Hewitt's son, then he's the only white person in the family. This is ironic. He's marrying a mixed-race woman, and there's a lot of fuss over it about, finally we have a black woman, a woman of colour in a white, male, patriarchal, aristocratic institution. And the irony is, if Harry is Hewitt's son, then he's the only member of that family currently alive that has any white European ancestry, and is as a white European in terms of his genetics. That is what's really ironic. Oh dear. I mean, I feel sorry for both of them, you know, Harry and Meghan. I feel sorry for them both. I wish them all well. If they really are in love, then I'm pleased. It's a happy bonus as well as a lucky bonus, and they could have a happy life together. It's unlikely that Harry will ever have to be king, because he's fifth in line to the throne. It's unlikely he'll ever be king, which means he can be a prince his whole life, which is great fun, and he might live his life in happiness with Meghan together, and I hope they do. I hope they are happy together. But what does the future hold for Princess Meghan, I wonder? Is she going to end up like her erstwhile mother-in-law in a tunnel in Paris, lying in a pool of blood? Wouldn't be surprised at all. However, at the moment she has been described as the most envied woman in the world. You can imagine women, millions of women everywhere, screwed up with bitter rage of jealousy for what she's achieved, for hooking this man, this much sought after man, this most desired man in the world. The envy she must be targeted at her now, right now, is incredible. It's the same with Kate. But I wonder, Princess Meghan is going to now experience what it's like to be in the royal family from the inside, the way Kate has done. Kate, since she became a royal, has been exposed to secrets that the public have no idea about, including what happened to that nurse, maybe when she was in hospital, nurse Jacinta Saldana, of whom I made a video about. I'll maybe put a link in the description box if I remember. Kate will have learned about that. She'll have learned exactly why that woman died. I don't believe it was suicide. And that's lots of other things, including the fact why she had to wear a prosthetic pregnancy bump and was handed a baby, I believe, that may have been grown in an artificial womb. A baby that might not even be hers. I mean, the way she was holding the baby when she came out of the hospital, there was no maternal bonding there. It was just, she was like a nurse holding a baby. The envy that Princess Meghan is going to experience from millions of women around the world, I have a feeling will be completely and utterly reversed very quickly once Meghan sees what it's like on the inside. And she will find herself envying all those millions of women who leave happy ordinary lives, who have been envying her. I wish the royal couple all the best. Good luck to them both. I think they're going to need it. Thank you for watching Herpanwo TV. Hospital Porters, Pride and Dignity. Stop the New World Order.